Hello everybody, my name is Lemon Anti, also by Lemon. I'm your coach of the Sacramento Surge, and today we have got a brand new league with the National Dex Ubers League, aka the NDUL. And I want to quickly apologize about the SPS. I was not able to upload the last couple weeks just because school life really took a turn. I really had to get that taken care of. But I have time, and I fully intend on making this league work. Before we go into the draft, I also want to note out this server is also running a different league. Called I think it's the Ultra Beast Draft League or something like that. Um, it's a VGC league, and I am participating in both. I just finished up the draft for that a couple days ago. I'm going to be recording the draft analysis for that as well. So let's get into the drafts for the National Dex Ubers League. Pretty obviously, we're allowed to draft Ubers. Not everything is allowed. Some stuff like Mega Mewtwo's are banned. Primal Groudon is banned. Kyogre, both forms, is banned, etc. I'm not going to go through all of it. But looking at the team we have to draft, in this league, we'll be drafting a team consisting of 1 Uber, 1 Mega, a Tier 1, Tier 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 4 free agent Pokemon. Our Mega can impact our 500 free agent points, depending on what tier of Mega it costs. And it's also very important to note, Ubers are allowed to be drafted as a free agent slot, but they're very expensive. They cost 240 for a tier 2 Uber and 300 points for a tier 1 Uber, so they are very expensive. It's also important to note that all cut moves, including Pursuit and Hidden Power, are allowed in this league, so that's a really big factor in my draft process. And Z moves are allowed. The only Pokemon who cannot use Z moves are Ubers and obviously Megas. Everything else is allowed to use Z moves. With that being said, guys, that going into the draft, my strategy was 100% to wait out on my Uber. I felt like a lot of the Ubers were strong enough that I could just wait until very late in the draft to actually worry about the Uber. And I really wanted to secure a good team around that Uber first. That being said, I had the 9th overall pick in the draft, which is one of my least favorite spots in the entire draft. Smack dab in the middle. I hate it. But I think I made it work. With our first pick being something that really stood out to me, something that I think is going to be an incredible offensive threat that, as far as I can tell, has very, very few options. It is Asta the Mega Lucario. I also want to say that I named all of my Pokemon on my team here after characters in a certain anime. So, also, the Mega Lucario is an incredible fighting and steel type Pokemon with the adaptability ability. Adaptability is great, boosting stab moves, so fighting and steel, by a significant amount, which is amazing for this typing because it's an amazing offensive typing. Having base 145 attack means it can hit incredibly hard with close combat, bullet punch, and meteor mash, which is its usual set. But it also has access to earthquake, crunch. Oh, excuse me. On the special side, it has Aura Sphere, Vacuum Wave. It has Extreme Speed as well for more priority. It's got Flash Cannon for special, um, Dark Pulse. It's got options on the special side as well. Base 112 speed is really good because it lets me outspeed some of those base 110s like Gengar, which is really nice. Really forces those things to maybe bring Scarf, which is awesome. This thing being a tier 1 mega did cost 100 points away from our free agent points, but I'm okay with that. And I'm going to be honest, I cannot believe this thing made it to me because this thing is so good. I have only found like 2, maybe 3 consistent answers to this thing in my entire process of trying to find a good answer. And even then, like, it's pretty sketchy. With that said, though, guys, for my second pick, I really want to grab something faster than Mega Lucario, maybe somewhere in the 120 range, as well as something that could use Z moves and hidden power as well, so I could really get the maximum out of that. And one of the best Pokemon for all 3 of those things is Luck the Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is at its peak in this league, having access to Electrium Z as well as Tapunium Z, which lets it use Guardian of Alola. It's the 4 Tapu's signature Z move, which deals a guaranteed 75% HP, which could be so beneficial for certain Pokemon. That could be really, really good. Even for like some regenerator Pokemon, knocking them down to 25% can be in range of a Thunderbolt. This thing being able to set electric terrain is also very nice, keeping my team from falling asleep, as well as boosting any electric type moves I want to run, like Thunder Punch or something, is very helpful. Base 130 speed being one of our fastest Pokemon on our team is great. Really forces Scarfers as well. This thing is really versatile in both defensive and offensive capabilities. Like with Z move, like I said, it's got really good offensive coverage. Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Grass, and Ice. It's got access to Brave Bird, U-Turn, Volt Switch, Dazzling Gleam, is really good. And then on the status side, it's got access to both screens, defog, roost, and taunt. Those are all awesome to have on the team, especially with base 130 speed. Base 95 special attack, while not the greatest thing in the world, it's not the greatest special attack set, it is still enough that Thunderbolt can do a lot of damage to a lot of Pokemon. And with that said, guys, moving on to our next pick, I wanted to grab something that was a Z move tank because currently my team is looking really frail. So and this is something that I've wanted to use for a long time. It is Finral the Slowbro. I love Slowbro on this team. I love it. Being able to teleport out with that -6 priority pivoting move is so good for our team, especially Lucario and Tapu Koko. Getting those things in without taking any extra chip besides hazards is so good. This thing having like leftovers, Rocky Helmet, heavy duty boots in case of spikes, all of it is so good. It can even run no item for Poltergeist Pokemon. It's great. As well as being able to go for Future Sights, which will hit 2 turns later and really force my opponent to go into a Dark type, while I have 2 very good Dark Repellent Pokemon right here. This thing is really good on the team. I really like it. Being a good water type to start off a fire water grass core. Jeez, I had a hard time saying that. Being a defensive Pokemon as well, very nice. If you're not hitting this thing with super effective damage, you're not hitting it at all. The regenerator is really, really nice as well. Being able to recover a third of our HP back every time we leave the field is really nice, especially with teleport. It's also really nice that it has access to Slack Off, which recovers one half of the user's HP on that turn. So it's got its own recovery, which is really nice. It's got a good amount of coverage, as most water types do. I'm not sure if it has Fire Blast or if that's just Slowking. I'll have to look, but it might have Fire Blast. It has Ice Beam, Psyshock, and Psychic, Hydro Pump, Surf, Scald, whatever. You name it. Is pretty decent. I really like this thing on the team. I think it gives a lot of pressure, really forces my opponent to bring a special attacking like electric or grass type, which is really, really good. And it really forces my opponent to think twice about going for dark type moves, because if you didn't know, Lucario has the ability Justified before Mega Evolution. And Justified means that if it gets hit by a dark type attack, it's going to raise its attack by 1 stage. So that's going to be a +1 Mega Lucario if they're not careful, which can be really good. With that said, guys, moving on to our next pick, I don't fully. Oh, I remember what it was. I wanted something that was pretty versatile. Looking at my team, we are pretty low on offensive pivoters, so I wanted to grab something that could be a little bit of both defensive and offensive pivoters, something that could fill in any roles that I might have a hard time filling, especially since right now I do not have an Uber planned at all, and that thing was our second tier 2 and free agent, Gray the Silvally. I draft this thing way too much. I really do. This thing is too good of a Pokemon for me to use. I love it. Silvally is a really good normal type to have on the team because it can fill pretty much any role and any singular type. Um, Especially if like maybe Tapu Koko is a really bad electric type to have for the team, then Gray would be perfect for it. Or Silvally would be perfect for it. Silvally having base 95 attack and base 95 and all stats is really nice all around our Pokemon. Really lets it use its whole move kit really well. It can be both setup and defensive. I really do like using defensive a bit more, but setup is definitely a really valid option. With Flame Charge, Sword Stance, multi attack, and like Crunch or Psychic Fangs even. Being able to be a secondary fairy is really nice, gonna be honest, or a secondary dragon maybe. Just anything is really nice. I would like to later on get a secondary normal though, especially in some matchups where Savali, because there are going to be probably matchups where Savali will not want to be a normal type, but we may still need a normal type. So it would be good to have something that can fill that extra normal type role. But yeah, I really like Savali in the team. And looking at my team now, this thing did cost me 120 points, so I'm down to 280. But looking at my team now, I have no hazard setters. And hazard setters are so important if you're going to have Lucario and Tapu Koko on the team, especially for Tapu Koko, though, because I really need to be able to chip things down for Koko to really go in. And so the next hazard setter, so our first hazard setter I really wanted to grab because I thought it fit the team really well, is Vanessa, the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen has no business being this tanky. Its stats do not, like, 90, 87, 85. It doesn't sound like it's going to be tanky, but for some reason it just is. It doesn't die for like a good while and it doesn't even have any recovery. It's weird. But having access to a lot of coverage, much like Slow King, is really nice with Sludge Wave, Ice Beam, Earth Power. I believe it has Fire Blast. I think it has Shadow Ball. It's got a ton of coverage, and Thunderbolt too. It's got a ton of coverage, and it's really good with Life Orb, Sheer Force boosting pretty much all of those moves. And for some reason, Sheer Force removes Life Orb recoil, which is kind of insane, in my opinion, but it does. Another cool thing about this Pokemon is that it's a Stealth Rock setter, it's a Toxic Spike setter, and it's a grounded poison, so it absorbs Toxic Spikes, so that Tapu Koko does not have to deal with them, nor does Slowbro, which is very beneficial. Having this thing as a electric immunity is also really nice because this thing is pretty consistent as a Pokemon all around. Yeah, I really like Vanessa on the team. It costs another 120 points, putting us down to 160. But I think it was definitely worth it. It's a good normal type to have, or not normal. It's a good poison and ground type to have on the team. I think it really pays off. There's a good number of electric types in my head that, like, sometimes they'll have grass coverage, especially with hidden power available, but not for this thing, which is pretty cool. Moving on to my next Pokemon, though, I really wanted to secure a good Dark type, just because a Dark type is super important in this format, and having a Pursuit resist is really good, really, really important. So I wanted something that was good at it, maybe something that could spread knockoffs a little bit better because currently I don't have any knockoff users. And one of the ones I've wanted to use for a while is Magna the Incineroar. Incineroar is a really cool Pokemon on this team because it is, again, pretty tanky with base 95 HP and 90 in both defenses is really nice. That Intimidate ability is going to be really helpful to lower the attacking stat of some Pokemon, which could be really beneficial just because some of them are like huge offensive threats for real onto the physical side. So having Intimidate for those guys would be really nice. It's another pivoter with Parting Shot and U-Turn. It's got stuff like Earthquake, Will-O-Wisp, Knockoff, Darkest Lariat is really nice. Somebody drafted Necrozma. And this Incineroar is a really good Necrozma answer in my opinion. So I feel really good about that. This thing being able to be both defensive and offensive is really cool, and with the heavy duty boots, it doesn't have to worry about taking as much damage from Stealth Rocks, which is so helpful. I really like Incineroar on the team. I think it fits well. But man, looking at our team, we have no ground resist other than Solvali sometimes. We've got four ground weaknesses, and no resist or immunity. So I wanted to make sure that we got a good one. I was gonna go with Skarmory, but I could not fit it on the team, and it also got taken right before this, so I wasn't able to grab it. But I found something I'm actually really excited for, and it is the Incarnate Tornadus. I really like Tornadus on this team. That base 111 speed tier is it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird speed tier. Being one speed point lower than Mega Lucario is kind of weird, but the fact that Prankster gives so much to this team is really cool. Plus, it's another Z move user, which, man, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit low on Z users. And so that really does help us out a lot. On the status side, for that Prankster ability, it's got access to Taunt, Tailwind, Rain Dance if we want to get some weather control, with Hurricane in there. It can Nasty Plot, it can Bulk Up. I think that's about it. I think that's about all it has, but that's still decent. Tailwind giving a speed boost to Lucario can be really helpful for any Scarfers. If we really want to be a special, like a really focused on special attacking, this thing has access to Heat Wave, Hurricane, Focus Blast, Dark Pulse, um, Sludge Wave is really nice, extra sensory as well. And then if we really wanted to be physical with that base 115 physical attack, it can. It's got knockoff, it's a good knockoffer, which is nice. It's got U-turn, superpower. It's got acrobatics in there for physical flying move. It's decent on the physical side. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, that Prankster Tailwind is really nice. I like having this thing on the team a lot. And with that said, again, like I said earlier, I wanted to draft a secondary normal. And again, my rockers are really, really low. So I wanted to grab a secondary normal that could help out with that. And there's very few normal types with stealth rocks. But one of them is my arch enemy, but it's good for the team. It's Rebecca, the Miltank. I hate Miltank with a burning passion, but for this team, it's very helpful. Being that base 100 speed tier to fill in between Tornadus and Sovali is really important. Being pure normal type is also very helpful, so that it can fill in, like I said, the role of a normal type Sovali in case Sovali needs to be something else. This thing having base 95 HP is really nice as well. Base 105 defense means that I've actually seen it take close combats from Aegislash pretty well. Scrappy is really, really nice because it lets me guarantee damage with Seismic Toss, which will do a guaranteed 100 HP, which is really, really nice for chipping things down. On top of that, it's a Stealth Rock setter. It's got Milk Drink for self-recovery. Let's see, what else can it do? It can Thunder Wave, I guess. It can Earthquake, Body Press. I think it has Body Press. It might have Body Press. It's got Body Slam for 30% paralyzed chances. It can Toxic Spread. All around, this thing is pretty decent for the team, especially filling in the that base 100 speed tier is definitely the most important thing. I totally forgot to mention though, Tornadus was a tier 3 and it cost me 100 points to grab, so we were down to 60 points for our last tier 4. And at this point, I had my Uber planned since, I want to say since it was a little bit before Incineroar was planned. Because everybody else at this point had their Uber. There was no reason for me to worry about it. Nobody could afford a secondary Uber in their free agent slots, so I felt okay about it. So I saved it for pretty much the last pick. Yes, Miltank, I think it fits the team pretty well. Moving on to our next Pokemon, we have 60 points left to spend in our free agent slot, and I really wanted to grab a Spike Stacker because spikes for this team would be so good, just because of its ability to force switches while also punishing said switches is really nice. And so one of the spike setters left in tier 4 was Zora the Excelgor. Excelgor is a bit of an interesting Pokemon because it's definitely stuck in that supportive role for the most part. It's never going to use that Unburden ability just because it's too frail to, but Sticky Hold is really nice because it means that it can't lose its heavy duty boots or whatever life orb or whatever it wants to carry, by getting knockoffed, which is really cool. Another really cool thing about this thing is that base 145 speed actually outspeeds Dragapult, which can be really useful. This thing has access to Final Gambit, which can be really, really good for pretty much guaranteeing a kill early on in the game. It can Spike Stack. It has Toxic Spikes as well. It's got access to U-Turn for pivoting. It can knock off as well. It can Yawn. I don't think we're going to really go for Yawn because we have Electric Terrain, but sometimes that can end up being useful. I can't think of much of what else this thing really does. It's got some special coverage, nothing amazing. Water Shuriken is kind of nice for a priority water move that hits multiple times. That's kind of cool. It doesn't do it much. It definitely doesn't do much, but spike stacking is definitely really, really good for this team. Now, our next Pokemon, we are down to our last two Pokemon being the Uber and the Tier 5. Now, for the Tier 5, Obviously, we do not have a grass type. We are very low on um, ground resist or ground immunities, but I really wanted to um, grab a normal type or a grass type that did not mean Silvally would have to be the grass type of the match. And that thing was originally going to be Thwacky, but it got taken. I tried to trade it with the guy in free agent in the grace period. He wouldn't. He didn't want to trade it. That's okay. I found something that I kind of started to like. I was considering trading it, but then I kind of caught on to its usefulness in this team. It is Mimosa the Lilligant. Lilligant is a very hit or miss Pokemon. Either it's going to do pretty well, it's going to do really bad. It's one or the other. But this thing having access to Chlorophyll is really nice. I believe somebody drafted Groudon, so I can use this in that Sun matchup really effectively. Would be really cool. Let me think. What else can it do? It can Quiver Dance for setup. It's got Sleep Powder, which I know I said I probably won't be using Yawn because of electric terrain, but for both Sleep Powder and Yawn, it's very important to note that electric terrain only lasts for 5 turns, so it's not on the field for all that long. This thing having access to Giga Drain for recovery. It's also got Leech Seed, which is really cool. It's actually another Z move candidate if it ends up being a good setup Pokemon, which could be really cool. Excuse me. It has access to Synthesis if I want to run a little bit more defensive. Its defensive stats are not great, but with like Quiver Dance, its special defense could be really good, and then with Leech Seed, it can help out with that a bit more. I really like this thing on the team. I would have liked Thwacky more because of that base 80 speed tier. We don't have something filling in that speed tier, but there weren't any other good options for grass types in tier 5, and I couldn't find a reliable way to trade the team around to fit around this. But with Silvally as a secondary grass type, I don't feel that bad about having this thing. With Hidden Power, though, it does have access to Hidden Power Ground for those fire and steel types, so that it is not completely walled by them, which is really nice. And now, folks, we are down to our Uber Pokemon, and I think it's pretty obvious which one it is because if you look at our team, we don't have a ghost or a dragon, and those are very important. So, of course, with those two typings, I went with Origin Form Giratina, which we are naming Yami. Giratina is awesome for this team, being a dragon type that resists or is immune to both of Tapu Koko's weaknesses and the majority of Lucario's. Um, Actually, it might be resistant to all of Lucario's. Fire, ground, fighting. Um, that might be it. I don't know. It's not quite it. I'm not sure. But Levitate ability is really nice for this team because, again, I've said before, we have a bit of a hard time defensively against ground types, which could end up being bad sometimes. But having this thing with the Levitator is really nice. It now has access to Poltergeist, so this is a really, really good dragon type move for this thing. And that gets boosted because it is forced to hold the item, the Grisius Orb. The Grisius Orb puts Giratina into this origin form and gives a 20% boost in power in dragon and ghost type moves. So Poltergeist, Shadow Sneak, Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, all of them are getting boosted. On top of that, it unfortunately does not have Dragon Dance, but it has access to Tailwind if I really need to run speed, or I can just have Tornadus do it for the team, which is really cool. Base 150 HP is really nice, so it can be fairly tanky with that and plus base 100 defenses. It can run Hone Claw, so it can guarantee to land the um, Poltergeist, which is really cool. I really like this thing as an Uber. It's another defogger. So we have four. We have four defoggers right now. Ugh. Four defoggers, really cool. It has no recovery for itself, and I don't have a wish healer, but I don't feel like I need a wish healer on this team. I think that my team forces switches enough that I don't need a wish healer. Hopefully. Plus, a good amount of my pivoters are slower pivoters, so that's helpful. So yeah, I'm really happy with Yami on the team. I think it works really well. It's a really good ghost type. Ghost is one of the Pokemon typings that I have a really hard time drafting just because I don't like a lot of them. But this one I really do like. So guys, with that said, do me a favor, Go down to the comments. Let me know which Pokemon you're most excited to see in this league. And while you're down there, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It shows me you enjoy the content that I enjoy creating. It takes little to no time out of your day, and you can change your mind later. With that said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all in week 1. Goodbye.